They were barely louder than the clatter of plates and the soft jazz drifting through the restaurant, but they carried a weight that made the man across from her pause mid-sentence. His smile froze, confusion clouding his eyes as he tried to decide whether she was joking or simply being dramatic. She wasn't. Her hands trembled beneath the table, fingers twisting together, her heart pounding with a mix of exhaustion and quiet panic. Across the room, at a small corner table near the window, Daniel Carter noticed her expression and felt something tighten in his chest. He hadn't meant to watch. He was just waiting, always waiting, glancing at the door every few seconds, wondering if his daughter's school play would end early, wondering if he'd timed this rare evening out wrong. But something about the woman's face drew his attention. Maybe it was the way she stared down at the tablecloth as if it were safer than meeting the man's eyes. Maybe it was the familiar look of someone who had reached the end of their strength. Daniel knew that look well. 3 years earlier, after his wife's funeral, he'd whispered those same words into an empty kitchen while holding a stack of unpaid bills and a crying 6-year-old who didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming back. I can't do this anymore. And yet, he had. Somehow, he always did. The woman pushed her chair back slightly, as if preparing to stand. The man across from her leaned forward, his voice sharp now, clearly irritated. Daniel couldn't hear the words, but he could see the shift, the impatience, the entitlement. The woman nodded once, a small, defeated movement, like someone agreeing just to make the moment end. Daniel exhaled slowly. He had promised himself he wouldn't get involved in other people's lives. Life was complicated enough. But something tugged at him, insistent and impossible to ignore. He checked his phone. No new messages from the babysitter. He still had time. Before he could overthink it, Daniel stood up, adjusted his jacket, and walked toward their table. "Excuse me," he said gently, offering an apologetic smile to the man. "I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I've been trying to reach my sister all evening, and I think this is her." The woman looked up, startled, her eyes meeting Daniel's. For a split second, confusion flickered across her face, then something else. Recognition. Not of him, but of what he was doing. Her breath caught. "Yes," she said quickly, standing up. "I was just about to come find you." The man frowned. "What is this?" Daniel didn't waver. "Family emergency," he said calmly. "I need to borrow her for a moment." Without waiting for permission, Daniel turned slightly, creating space for the woman to step away from the table. She hesitated only a heartbeat before grabbing her purse and moving beside him. "Thank you for dinner," she said to her date, her voice steadier now. I'll call you." She didn't. They walked toward the entrance together, the tension easing with every step. Once outside, the cool night air wrapped around them, and the woman let out a shaky laugh that turned into a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Oh my gosh," she said, pressing a hand to her chest. "I didn't know what I was going to do." "Thank you." Daniel smiled softly. "You looked like you needed an exit." "You have no idea," she replied. "I'm sorry if that was awkward for you." "Not at all," he said. "I've been rescued before. I know how much it matters." She studied him now, really looking at him. He wasn't flashy or overly confident. There was a tired kindness in his eyes, the kind that came from responsibility and love rather than charm. It made her feel unexpectedly safe. "I'm Emily," she said. "Daniel." They stood there for a moment, the noise of the city humming around them. The restaurant door opened and closed behind them, life moving on as if nothing remarkable had happened. But for Emily, something had shifted. "That was the worst date of my life," she admitted, then laughed again, this time more freely. "I only agreed to meet him because my friend said I needed to get back out there." "Did you want to be out there?" Daniel asked. She shrugged. "I wanted to stop feeling like I was failing at everything." Daniel nodded. "I get that. He checked his phone again, finally seeing a message. "My daughter's play just ended," he said. "I should head back." "Oh," Emily said, surprised by the small sting she felt at the idea of him leaving. "Of course." They hesitated, neither quite ready to go. Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out a small piece of paper, and scribbled his number. "In case you ever need another emergency rescue," he said lightly. Emily took it, her fingers brushing his. "I might." They parted ways with a polite wave, but as Emily walked down the street, she glanced back once. Daniel was already heading in the opposite direction, his phone to his ear, his posture attentive as he spoke to someone, his daughter, she guessed. Something warm settled in her chest. Over the next few days, Emily found herself thinking about Daniel more than she expected. She told herself it was just gratitude. He'd been kind at a moment when she'd felt small and trapped. Anyone would feel attached to that. But gratitude didn't explain the way she smiled when her phone buzzed, hoping it was him. 3 days later, it was. "Hey," his text read. "This is Daniel. Just checking in to see if you're okay." Emily stared at the screen, then typed back. "I am. Thanks to you." They started talking, first in short messages, then longer ones. Daniel told her about Lily, his 8-year-old daughter who loved drawing and asked endless questions about the world. He told her about balancing work and parenthood, about burning dinner more often than he cared to admit. Emily told him about her job at a non-profit, about the pressure she put on herself to always be strong, always capable. They met for coffee a week later. It wasn't a date, at least not officially. Just two people sitting across from each other, sharing stories, laughing easily. Emily noticed the way Daniel listened, really listened, like her words mattered. Daniel noticed the way Emily's eyes lit up when she talked about helping others, even when she was exhausted. Weeks passed. Coffee turned into walks in the park. Walks turned into dinners that included Lily, who eyed Emily suspiciously at first before warming up to her over shared desserts and silly jokes. Emily told herself she was just happy to be included. She told herself she didn't want more. But late at night, lying in bed, she replayed moments, Daniel's quiet smile, the warmth of his hand when he helped her step off a curb, the way he always made space for others before himself. She loved him. The realization didn't crash over her all at once. It crept in slowly, undeniable and terrifying. Daniel wasn't just a man she admired. He was someone she could imagine a future with. And that made everything complicated. Because Daniel never crossed a line. He was kind, attentive, thoughtful, but always careful. Always aware of Lily. Always respectful of boundaries. Emily couldn't tell if he felt something more or if she was simply a comfortable presence in his life, a friend who made things a little easier. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Emily and Daniel sat on the couch, mugs of tea cooling in their hands. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that invites honesty. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said. "Of course." "Why did you help me that night?" she asked. "You didn't know me." Daniel leaned back, thinking. "I saw someone who looked overwhelmed," he said slowly. "I've been there. And I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to make that moment easier for someone else, I would." Emily swallowed. "You saved my date," she said with a small smile. Daniel chuckled. "I'm not sure it was worth saving." "No," she said softly. "You saved me." Their eyes met, something unspoken hanging between them. Daniel looked away first. "I don't want to rush anything," he said. "My life is full. Complicated." "I know," Emily said, her heart aching and hopeful all at once. "I don't want to rush either. But love, once acknowledged, doesn't stay quiet." Emily struggled with it, torn between wanting to protect what they had and wanting to be honest. She worried that telling Daniel how she felt would change